Om Namo Narayana, Om Namah Shivaya, Shivam, Shivaham, Om. Welcome to another satsang with your host, Chuck the Yogi from the Yogi Cave. Let us continue. I think I left off at 1.35. Shayavati va Pavritir Upana Manasaha Stiti Nivandani. Or restriction comes about when an object-centered activity has arisen which holds the mind in steadiness. So as I said before, anything that holds the mind in steadiness, it can be a mantra, it can be a yantra or a geometric pattern, it can be a dot right in front of you, it can be your breath, it can be an image, it can be anything. Those are props. The props are to help you to focus and to start the process. So that's basically what he's alluding to. Patanjali being ever so pragmatic as he is. 1.36 Vishoka va Jatishmati. Or restriction is achieved by mental activities which are sorrowless and illuminating. So the idea that yoga is somehow dreadful and valley of sorrows and mea culpa this and mea culpa that, not quite. There's no way that a yogi could endure 12 years of extreme asceticism if it were all about the valley of tears and all that other stuff. So Patanjali is saying, look, there are some unicorns and rainbows there too. Can't be all dread and gloom and doom. 1.37 Vitaraka Vishayam Vachidam. Or restriction is achieved when consciousness is directed to those beings who have conquered attachment. People misinterpret the Indian people from India, when they put an image of their guru on the wall. They say, oh, he's an idolater. No. He sees that guru as that image of perfection he wishes to achieve. So, again, the guru, the image, is just another prop to achieve that state. So let's go a little deeper, shall we? 1.38 Swapna Nidra Jnana Alambanam Va. Or restriction is achieved when consciousness is resting on the insight arising from dreams and sleep. Over 2,000 years before Carl Jung or Sigmund Freud, there was Patanjali. And it's not universal. It's not restricted to India. They had dream interpretation temples in Egypt and so on. But it just shows that, yes, dream interpretation is also part of yoga. It's right here. So anybody that tells you otherwise is mistaken. Refer them, please, to the Yoga Sutra. And that is something that the Tibetans understand very well. When you look at the 6 yogas of Naropa, you're going to see that very clearly as well. I've had prophetic dreams, and one of my prophetic dreams led me to India, and it played out like a fiddle. So these things are real. 1.39 Yatha Abhimata Dhyanadva. Or restrictions achieved through meditative absorption as desired. So again, Patanjali is saying whatever floats your boat, right? If it works, do it. So I kind of try to bring that sense of pragmatism to my own practice, as well as to my clinical practice, my spiritual practice. And you would think that would sink in with the American psyche. European psyche, but with the American psyche in general, because Americans are eminently practical. Although, as of late, there's been quite an ideological streak going on, but sift that out for a little bit, and you'll see the practicality and the pragmatism. Let's hope that pans out this year. Let's see, 1.40. Parama Anu Parama Mahatva Antosya Vashikaraha. His mastery extends from the most minute to the greatest magnitude. So here we start going into what could be understood as siddhis or powers. I'm not going to get into the controversy whether these powers or abilities are literal or metaphorical. I'm just going to tell you what the text says. You reach your own conclusion. So mastery extends from the most minute to the greatest magnitude. This can be understood as just as our science has gone into the most minute and to the greatest magnitude using instruments, the yogis can achieve similarly with their insight. I'm just going to leave it there. 1.41 Kshina Vritter Abhya Tasyaiva Maner Grahitri Grahana Grahyeshu Tatsta Tad Ajna Nada Samapati. In case of consciousness or of a consciousness whose fluctuations have dwindled and which has become like a transparent jewel, there results, with reference to the grasper, grasping, and the grasped state of coincidence with that on which consciousness abides and by which consciousness is anointed. Very technical stuff, right? But we're talking about what Jung would call, psychologist Jung, coincidentia oppositorum, or the coincidence of opposites. This is more, he's talking more about when one advances in yoga, you get to that point where there is a coincidence of opposites. There's no me and you, no this and that. There's just this unitary consciousness, this wholeness, if you will. So that's what he's talking about. 1.42 Tatra Shabda Artha Janna Vikalpaihi Samkirna Savitarka Samapati. So long as there is conceptual knowledge based on the intent of words in this ecstasy, then the state is called coincidence interspersed with cogitation. So that, again, going back to Savikalpa and Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Savikalpa is a samadhi that is aided by props. It's held up by props. Nirvikalpa Samadhi is the samadhi that doesn't need those props anymore. It takes them off. It takes the training wheels off. So it's the same thing here. He's just kind of getting into a little bit more deeper into what I was talking about previously. So Patanjali has this way of moving on the surface, and then he spirals a little bit deeper, and then he goes a little bit deeper, and he goes back up to the surface, goes a little deeper, and that sort of thing. That's just his way of going about it, and it's genius, to be honest with you. But yeah, so he's just elaborating on that concept of Savikalpa Samadhi. 1.43 Smriti Parishuddha Svarupa Shunya Ivarta Matra Nirvasa Nirvitarka. On the purification of the depth memory, which has become, as it were, empty of its essence, and when the object alone is shining forth, then the state is called ultracognitive coincidence. So it's a technical, very technical, but we're talking about the yogi going through a process of purification of his kleshas, of his tendencies, to clear the surface to the point where he achieves that penultimate achievement in yoga, which is Mahasamadhi. Although Mahasamadhi is understood in the Indian context as the leaving of the body, but in this context we can put that as achieving great samadhi, or achieving a great deep sense of ecstasy or samadhi. And so there's a process of purification that has to occur before that's achieved. And Patanjali is getting into that purification of depth memory, the subconscious, basically. So yeah, Patanjali understood the subconscious too. We're latecomers in the game when it comes to that. Anyway, I don't want to get into any more details because he's just going to keep on throwing out mouthfuls and mouthfuls within mouthfuls. So let's just leave it there for now. Om Namo Narayana, Om Namah Shivaya, Shivam, Shivam, Jai Ma, Jai Mahakal, Om Shivam. Till next time.